In the first 10 minutes, one person with the right equipment can usually stop a wildfire. After an hour, nothing may be enough. Same fire, just a different window. What happens between those 2 points decides everything. Fire scientists study this hour more intensely than any other. Most people assume fire burns wood. It doesn't, not directly. Before wood can burn, it has to get hot enough to break apart. Around 300 degrees Celsius, wood starts releasing flammable gas. Carbon monoxide, methane. Those are what the visible flame is actually burning. The wood is the factory, the gas is the fuel. That process is called pyrolysis. How fast wood produces that gas determines how fast the fire grows. The single most important variable in the first hour isn't the spark. It's how dry the surrounding vegetation is. Grass, pine needles, small twigs, they hold almost no water. If they're dry enough, pyrolysis starts within seconds of a spark. If they still hold moisture, the fire has to evaporate that water before it can spread. Below about 15% moisture, fire spreads readily. Below 8%, behavior becomes extreme. And fuels dry out roughly twice, as fast as they reabsorb moisture. A day that starts humid but turns dry by afternoon leaves fuel much drier than it looks. Most of the world works like this, complicated mechanisms, running quietly beneath a simple surface. If that's what you find yourself thinking about, subscribe, and we'll keep going. Most fires don't start with a visible flame. They start smoldering. Smoldering is slow, flameless burning happening inside the material. No visible light. It produces carbon monoxide and fine particles, but no glow. You can walk right past a smoldering section of forest floor without noticing it. In waterlogged ground packed with decayed plant matter, smoldering can survive for months. Buried under winter snow, re-emerging as a surface fire in spring. Researchers call these zombie fires. A fire that appears extinguished may not be extinguished at all. Once a visible flame establishes, the next 15 to 20 minutes are critical. Thin fuels catch fire almost instantly because they're thin. Heat penetrates all the way through a blade of grass or pine needle in seconds. As they ignite, they radiate heat outward to neighboring fuel around them. That fuel preheats, then ignites, then radiates further out. Each ignition prepares the next one. Once the fire reaches roughly the size of a tennis court, it can sustain itself. Before that point, one person might still stop it. After that, the resources required escalate fast. Fire doesn't just react to the wind around it, it generates its own. Combustion heats the air above the flames, making it lighter than the surrounding air. That hot air rises, and cooler air rushes inward from all directions to replace it. The fire is pulling air toward itself. In the first few minutes, that inflow is barely noticeable. As the fire grows, the pull gets stronger. In extreme conditions, fire-generated winds exceeding 80 kilometers per hour have been recorded. When there's already wind in the landscape, it tilts that rising column sideways. And that starts carrying burning embers ahead of the main fire. The flame front isn't the biggest threat in the first hour. The embers are. Bark, pine cones, twigs, they get pulled up into that rising air. Wind carries them forward, sometimes hundreds of meters, sometimes kilometers ahead of the fire. When they land in dry vegetation, new fires start. This is why fires appear to jump rivers and roads. They don't jump, they replicate. Each spot fire starts generating its own embers almost immediately. What began as one fire becomes 10, then 100. The spots burned more land than the original fire. The most dangerous transition in the first hour is when fire climbs into the treetops. To reach the canopy, it needs a vertical bridge. Shrubs, young trees, dead branches, any of them can form that bridge. Fire scientists call these latter fuels. A century of fire suppression has let those bridges grow unchecked. In many forests, fires historically passed through every 5 to 15 years. That cleared the ladder fuels and kept the ground separate from the canopy. Now the lowest branches in some forests hang just 1 to 2 meters off the ground. Once fire reaches those branches, it can be in the treetops within minutes. After that, spread rates accelerate, and suppression becomes nearly impossible. More wind means faster spread, but also less complete burning. Wind shortens how long the fire actually burns any given patch of fuel. What's left behind is char, and char can reignite after the front has passed. That's one of the leading causes of firefighter deaths. A fire spreading against the wind moves slowly. It looks manageable. But it burns 95% of available fuel. A wind-driven fire burns 60 to 70. The slow fire does more damage per square meter, not less. Large fires can generate their own storm clouds. Those clouds can produce rain. But that rain almost never reaches the ground. The powerful upward winds inside the cloud keep the water suspended until it evaporates. Meanwhile, cold air falls from the cloud's edges as sudden, powerful gusts. The cloud looks like rain is coming. The fire gets more wind. In cities, firefighting resources typically arrive within 8 to 12 minutes of ignition. In remote terrain, at night, or during multiple simultaneous fires, that gap can stretch to 60 minutes. Every minute in that gap costs exponentially more. A fire attacked at 10 minutes is almost always containable. At 60 minutes under high danger conditions, it rarely is. And the most dangerous thing about early fires is that they almost always look manageable. They aren't. Most fires are stopped in the first 10 minutes before the world even notices. The fire doesn't become a disaster because of the spark. It becomes one because the landscape was ready. Next time you see smoke on the horizon, you'll know what might already be in motion. See you in the next one.